Today at Wilwood Disc Brakes, we are going to show you how easy it can be to upgrade your Mazda Miata to our big brake kit. Before we begin, it's very important to read through our datasheet instructions designed for your application to verify brake lines, wheel clearance, and look for any variations that may have taken place before or after the vehicle left the factory. With the vehicle properly secured and the front wheels removed, we suggest taking some photos of the current setup for reference if needed. First, disassemble the original equipment from brakes. Place a spacer on each bolt between the bracket and the upright mounting boss. Orient the caliper mount bracket and install using bolts and washers. Ensure that the flange heads of the clinch nuts in the bracket are facing outboard. Temporarily tighten the mounting bolts. The bracket must fit squarely against the mount bosses on the upright. Inspect for interference from casting irregularities, machining ridges, burrs, etc. Next, remove bolts one at a time and apply red Loctite 271 to the threads and torque to instructions specifications. Orient the rotor and hat as shown. Attach rotor to the hat using bolts and washers. Using an alternating sequence, apply red Loctite 271 to the threads and torque to the instruction specifications. Slide the rotor registration adapter onto the axle register on the axle hub with the smaller OD facing toward the rotor/hat. Slide the hat/rotor assembly onto the axle hub. The hat must fit flush against the axle hub flange or excessive rotor runout may result. Install 3 lug nuts finger tight to keep the hat/rotor assembly in place while continuing with the installation. This kit contains distinct right and left hand calipers that must be mounted in a specific direction as indicated by the arrow on the caliper. Mount the caliper onto the caliper mounting bracket using bolts and washers. Initially, place one shim on each bolt between the caliper and the bracket. Ensure that the caliper is mounted so the largest pistons are at the rotor exit end of the caliper in relation to the direction of the rotor rotation. Temporarily tighten the mounting bolts and view the rotor through the top opening of the caliper. The rotor should be centered in the caliper. If not, adjust by adding or subtracting shims between the bracket and the caliper. Always use the same amount of shims on each of the 2 mounting bolts. The end of each bolt must be flush with or slightly protruding from the head of the clinch nut. If necessary, place shims between the washer and the caliper mounting ear to achieve the proper clinch nut engagement. Once the caliper alignment and clinch nut engagement are correct, remove the mounting bolts, shims, and caliper. Remove the 2-pad retaining clips from the caliper by carefully popping out the pin retaining clips and sliding out the pins. Insert the brake pads into the caliper from the bottom, with friction material facing the rotor. Secure the brake pads in place with the pad retaining pins and clips. Reinstall the caliper onto the caliper mounting bracket using the same number of shims from the previous alignment check. Apply red Loctite 271 to the bolt threads and torque to instruction specifications. Next, using PTFE tape, install the 90-degree fitting into the caliper. Attach the supplied cushion clamp to the Flexline. Screw the Flexline into the 90-degree fitting on the caliper and tighten. Remove the brake line mounting bolts. Disconnect the OEM hard line from the soft line and remove the OEM caliper and brake line. Attach the Flexline to the hard line and using the OEM brake line mounting bolts, attach the Flexline. Attach the cushion clamp to the upper A-arm using the factory bolt. Be sure to double check all of your work for safety reasons, and when ready, perform a full system fill and bleed with new Wilwood brake fluid best suited for your application. Be sure to check again for sufficient wheel clearance and follow the directions for proper bedding of pads and pedal feel. If you have any questions, difficulties, or doubts, please contact a professional.